Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. If you're joining me on Twitter, what's up, Twitter fam? You have been there from day one. If you're joining me on Facebook, I appreciate all of the people who join me on Facebook, all the love that you've shown me since we've been broadcasting on Facebook. And to my Instagram people out there, I'm trying to, get a little more Instagram love out there. And so I've been trying to find a way to broadcast to Instagram, but as pretty much any creator knows, trying to broadcast to Instagram simultaneously while broadcasting to these other places is a little more difficult because Instagram doesn't like to play well with each other. So if you're listening on Instagram, I appreciate it. It's good to hear from you. It's good to see you. Go ahead and hit those like and subscribe buttons. Leave comments. I want to hear from you as always. Unfortunately, when I normally stick to sports, there are sports to talk about. And while there are things going on in the NBA that we could talk about with trade rumors and free agency, while there's things going in baseball that would be great to talk about, shout out to the Yankees. Y'all are doing your thing. While there's things to talk about in sports, WNBA is killing it right now. The Aces and the Seattle, the Aces in Seattle both laid complete and utter eggs the other night. We could talk about all of that stuff. But unfortunately, this world is crazy. And more specifically, our country is crazy. And so if I don't come on and address it, it's almost as if I'm allowing it to happen without any recourse. My voice may not be big and my platform may not be huge, but the people who know me and the people who tune in to listen to what I have to say on a regular basis every morning, they expect me to tell you what's real. They expect me to say what's out there. And so I have to be true to who I am and what I believe in. It's not always the most popular. And by the way, if I was trying to be the most popular, there's a lot of things that I say that I probably would not say. But what I want to do is I always want to be fair. And so here's what I will say. It has to be difficult to be a police officer. It has to be difficult. There's no way around it. It has to be a difficult job in order to be a police officer. I believe that being a police officer might be one of the most difficult jobs in the world. Why? Because your job description is to protect and serve. And sometimes those two things can be contradictory because you could be protecting one person while trying to serve the other, and they don't mix. That's why I always wonder why it's so easy to become a police officer. Why is it so easy? Like in a world where it's so difficult to become something. It's so difficult to become, you have to go to school for 4 years. Hey, people talk about how easy it is to become a teacher. But in reality, you still have to go to college and graduate. Now, once you have a degree, is it easy to get into education? Absolutely. But just because it's easy to get in once you have all of those requirements does not mean that the requirements are not hard. Doesn't mean that the requirements are not difficult and that they require a level of dedication. So when I think about something like being a police officer and the fact that you don't have to go to college in order to become a police officer, it's troubling. It's troubling, right? Because in my mind, the number one thing that you would have in order to be a really good police officer is an ability to troubleshoot, an ability to diagnose problems and to come up with the best solution fast, under pressure. That seems to be right for me. So color me crazy when we look at this world that we're in and we see a situation where police officers don't act, right? We see situations where the officers will not engage. And then we try to juxtapose that with the situations that we see where officers continually engage. A young man fleeing the police for something, I don't know why. But I know one thing: he had not just killed people. There were not people who had just died at his hand. And when that young man got out of a car, he was shot 60 times. 60. What level of training do you get that says I need to empty 60 bullets into someone? What type of training is it out there that says I need to empty 60 rounds of ammunition? If I'm your superior officer, if I'm your boss, I'm asking these questions. Number one, how many bullets does it take to disarm someone? How many bullets does it take to disarm someone? Number two, why are you wasting my ammunition? Number three, what did you do before you started shooting? And I might have flipped those, but I'm coming off the dome with these. I probably would have went, what did you do before you started shooting? Then, why did it take so many rounds? And B, how many bullets does it take to stabilize somebody, to put someone in a position where you're no longer, you're no longer worried about them, right? Like, those have to be the questions. It's the reason why we're so dumbfounded by so much of the stuff that goes on here is because we're trying to figure out how people who have just murdered others are able to go down to the precinct. How is it possible that someone can murder people, right? How is it possible that someone can murder people and live to have a trial? Yet there are others who don't bring physical harm on anyone that never has an opportunity to see their day in court. Even if they're wrong. Let's be real about it. This young man who fled from the police, even if he did something, it's not murder. And so whatever crime he committed, he's going to have an opportunity to then get out of jail and continue to live his life. The animal that murdered people at a 4th of July parade, the animal that murdered people in Buffalo, those people are never going to get out of jail. They're never going to get out of jail. And yet they still had the opportunity to go before a judge and plead their case. They're doing something that others may never be able to do, will never be able to do. And why? Where is the discernment? Where is the understanding of serving? And who are you protecting? When it's a high-speed chase, and they call it a high-speed chase, when you're going 80 miles an hour, that's not high speed. That's normal. That's normal speed on the road. When you're going 80 miles an hour and then the car comes to a stop and you get out and you have a car surrounded and you have the person surrounded and they're out the car without a weapon, who are you protecting? Who are you protecting? When you begin to open fire, who are you serving? I wanted to come on and talk about this yesterday. And if I would have came on and talked about that situation yesterday, at the same time that I was talking about that situation, there would have been a mass murderer out there shooting people at a parade. This is how crazy our world is right now. I'm not on here screaming defund the police. I'm not on here saying we don't need protection. I'm not on here saying we don't need laws. I'm asking, why do we allow people to have these positions without being properly educated? Why? I want to know what the police force would look like if you had to have a degree in order to go to the police academy. Not you can earn a degree while you're in the police force. No. It starts with bachelor's degree in criminal justice. How about we start there? We'll start with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Then we'll go into training. And our training needs to be more than just 8 weeks or 12 weeks. It needs to be extensive, because in a manner, we need to be able to brainwash these people to get them out of their mindset that allows them to be afraid when they see a black man and unafraid when they see a white man. Because that's what we're saying. That's what we're talking about, right? It is fear of the black man that makes police officers, black or white, by the way. It is fear of a black man that would make police officers throw a black man in the back of a truck, make a sharp turn, have that black man break his neck, yell for help, and for the people in the front to just go, oh, there ain't nothing wrong with him, because they don't want to go back there for fear of what might happen. It is fear of the black man that leaves us vulnerable to these types of situations. And it is fear across the board. It's not just with white people. It's black people fearing black people. So much of the murder and killing and going on, our country is crazy right now. I know one thing though, if the police force had officers in it who have gone to college, who have studied and understood what criminal justice really meant, then maybe more of these situations would be handled evenly. There's no reason why mass murderers and terrorists go to jail and guys who may have had like a sack and was afraid ran and got murdered and put 60 bullets into their body, or got thrown into the back of a truck and had their neck broken. There's no reason for any of that to happen. And why I say all of that, keep in mind that this comes on the heels of one of the worst Supreme Court decisions in the history of Supreme Court decisions, in the history of law. So we had to deal with the repeal, the reversal of Roe v. Wade. Then we had to deal with the new law allowing prayer in the classroom, essentially ending the separation of church and state. Then we had to deal with murders, 60 shots, broken neck. Now we're on Tuesday mourning the loss of people who died at the hands of a terrorist during a 4th of July parade. But that person's still alive. What are we doing out here? And where are the police officers that care? Not just the ones that want to collect the check. That can't be a I'm just collecting a check job. And if it is a I'm just collecting a check job, then you have to make the check one where people will do what you want them to do because the check's so good that they can't afford to get rid of it. It's tough out there. If you're a police officer, you could be killed any day. That's scary. That's why I'm not a police officer. I have not dedicated my life to that. I am not willing to dedicate my life to that. But once you dedicate your life to that, there's no longer sympathy for it. You sign up to be a police officer. So it is your job to die in the line of duty if that is what's called for. You are a hero the moment you put pen to paper to say that you are going to be a police officer. You are a hero that day. Everything else is just doing your job. Everything else is just doing your job. As a teacher, my job is to protect those kids that come through my door. If I thought for a second that their lives were in jeopardy, I wouldn't hesitate. If I thought for a second that any one of them had an opportunity to be harmed, I wouldn't hesitate. It's not about me in that moment, it's about them. And it's not about what we do after the bullets have flown. It's not about what we do after the damage is done. It's about what we do before it and how we inform ourselves before it. If we're not willing to invest in the education to be able to better understand how to do these things, then what are we doing, man? I want to talk about basketball. I want to talk about basketball, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to talk about this stuff because I don't want this stuff to be happening. But if it continues to happen, if there's a time where it's going to be going down, I can't just let it go by. Christian Gokel said something very profound when he joined me on my Gene Therapy podcast. He said, there's just certain things that I just don't feel right. And I'm paraphrasing him, so I apologize if I get it slightly wrong, but go check out that episode. He says, I wouldn't feel right if I just let it go by. I wouldn't feel, it wouldn't be right. If it's on your spirit, if it's on your soul to talk about it, then that's what you got to do. And man, it's so hard because we want to talk about sports, but we can't because it's crazy out here. And all I ask, because nothing is done, nothing is a sweeping change, right? So I have to be realistic. We could easily start demanding better education. And I don't mean training, because training has its flaws. Do y'all know that there are training videos out there for police officers, and every single bad guy that they see on these training videos are black? What does that do? How does that mess with someone's psyche? If you see a training video and everybody on the training video, every perp is black, what does that do to you? How does that change your outlook? How does that change what it is that you do within within your job. If you see the perp and the perp that you see is black on, immediately when you're out in the real world, black associates perp with you. There's no reason why some of these young men and young women who have been murdered can't eventually come home when their crimes are not so severe that it would keep them in jail for a long period of time. You should not be murdered for running from the police. You should not be murdered for resisting arrest. You should not be murdered in your car. You should not be murdered when you are unarmed. You should not be murdered for words. The job of the police should be to find ways to not murder you. If you do not have a life-threatening weapon in your hand, there is no reason for you to be murdered. However, if you have an AR-15 in your hand and you just murdered a bunch of people, if you die, you know what? That's par for the course. There's a good chance that that person wanted to die. That the end result that person was looking for was death. Instead, taxpayers have to pay this person's bill for the next 40 years while they stay in a federal prison. Meanwhile, the guy who may have had some weed in his car because that state hasn't decriminalized marijuana yet, or may have some drugs in there. They may do some time, but they'll get out. They'll be able to rehabilitate themselves. They had to die, and they had to die in the manner in which they died. It's sad. It's awful. And we can do better. We have an ability to do better. We just have to take that step. We have to take that leap. We have to be ready to do the things necessary to be better. And we can do it. We can do it. I want to leave this on some positive because I've been, I want to say happy birthday to my guys, CJ, Chris James, and Teron Davenport. Both have their birthdays today. CJ, good colleague of mine, good friend, football game plan. Chris, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. I hope you have I'm sure you had a fantastic week. I've seen videos and pictures. TD, Teron Davenport of ESPN, covers the Titans. Happy birthday to you. I hope that you've had a great weekend. I know you have. Enjoy your week. I want to give another birthday shout out to my sister, whose birthday was yesterday on July 4th. She is Lady Liberty. So happy birthday to you. I love you. Continue to be the special person that you are. Continue to uplift people. And also remember Trench 30, my offensive line clinic that is happening in Savannah this week, July 7th through the 10th. So in 2 days, on Thursday the 7th through Sunday the 10th, Trench 30 going down in Savannah. I want to give a big shout out to a couple of the sponsors for Trench 30. That would be Say Less Sports Tees. If you can see, I'm wearing it. If you're on Instagram, it's backwards because, my phone. But if you're on everywhere else, you can see Say Less Sports Tees. If you have a team An organization, if you have a group that are looking for any type of apparel, they do packets, they do any type of screen printing that you would want to have done. They'll design designs for you. You can come in with a design, take advantage. It's not just about the prices, right? Because it's not just about having the lowest price. It's about the ability to make things happen. And you come to some of these bigger companies, and these bigger companies, you have to wait. You got to wait 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks. If you are somebody and you want to run a line, like say if you have some merch that you want to do, you're a young up and comer, you want to take advantage of the NIL, so you want to have some merch. Call up Say Less Sports Tees, man. They'll work out something with you. Put a line together, right? Set up a way for you to be able to go and get that merch sold without having to give away, 50% of your profits, 60% of your profits, or without having some third party jack your price up to $35 for a t-shirt, right? Because that's not going to help either. Because nobody's buying that $35 t-shirt outside of your mom and them, right? So if you have anything, apparel, you want to do player package, you want to do fundraisers, you want to have your merch, Say Less Sports Tees, that's who you call. And the place that I go, I talk about them all the time, Cycle Bar, Midtown, Savannah. If you're a coach, if you're somebody in our world and we're normally running around, we don't take care of ourselves the way we're supposed to, you got to come. You got to get on this bike. You got to sweat it out. Heart health. Heart health is where it is for us men, especially if you're somebody who eats poorly. Heart health is where it's at. Come to Cycle Bar Midtown Savannah. They'll get you right. I appreciate both of those title sponsors for really holding us down and allowing us to offer Trench 30 at an extremely low price. We're talking $25 a camper for 4 days, $25 a person for 4 days. They get 4 days worth of training for $25, not $25 a day. That was the original price. Now, $25 for everything. And I'm already thinking bigger for next year. I'm already thinking next year, Trench 100. And I want it to be everybody goes for free, and I get to invite those kids to come out and really get some great training. So I wanted to end that with some beautiful things. We'll be talking about that over the next few days. That's all the time I have at Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me. Wherever you are joining me, rate the show, comment, agree, disagree. But whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, you know what to do. Like, subscribe. If you're listening to the podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, make sure that you holler at me. Until next time, peace.